Hello and welcome to today's DIY tutorial. We are going to be making a witch's spell potion book. I have in my stash a book that has a cloth cover. It's about 10 inches by about 7 for the size that we're going to do. Any size that you choose, that works for you. I've opened it up to the middle, and then what I have done so far is I have sprayed it with some water because I want to get the crinkles in here. I want to get these pages. So while I'm just going to give this a quick spray because we want to get this nice and old and wrinkled. And then what I've done is online, I have found 2 spell potion recipes that we are going to glue onto the pages here. We are going to use black paint, and I'm going to paint the back side of the cover on this one. Then we're going to use different varieties of antiquing. I'm going to use this edge distresser sander. It's an 80 grit, so if you have an 80 coarse sander, it's going to help get the edges of this really roughed up, and we're going to make this look old on the edges. So you can kind of see what that's going to do, because we want this to look old and aged as much as possible. So when you wet the pages and let them sit, it makes it a little bit easier to distress the edges, and that's what we want. So you can kind of see what it's doing here a little bit. And we're going to do the top a little bit. Even on the edges of the book, we want that all distressed as well. And you can distress as much or as little as you like. So I'm going to continue around here. Getting a little bit more wetness here because the little bit of the wet helps with the sanding to kind of really get those edges a lot roughed up a little bit, because the older, the more distress I like it, the better on the edges and on the book. So I like even how it's tearing up some of the pages, some of those wrinkled corners that I've already started. Just get it on and just rough it up. So you can see the threads on the book. That's why I like the cloth, because they start to fray and you want that frayness in there. So it really gives you that old effect. The pages are starting to crinkle. The other thing that you can do is you can go in between your pages and spray a little bit of water so that they can kind of curve up a little bit more, because you want to get that really aged look. Then what you can also do is you can put some to get a little bit more curve up here, which would be the effect that we want. Just roll up some paper towel, or you can roll up some tin foil, put that underneath, whatever it is that you have on hand that you can use to create that little bit of that curve, because we kind of want that curviness to the books. And then you can continue all the way down in between all the different pages, just to get that little bit of height and separation like a book would do after some time of being in the elements of aging and neglect. So I'm going to let that dry, and in the meantime I'm going to go up to the back of the book and I'm going to paint that black. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll be back to finish the rest of it. So we've gone in, I've done 1 coat of black paint, and there's some uneven edges, which I'm okay with. I've even gone in with the 180s grit, and I actually roughed up the edges on this side a little bit more. So it's tearing up the cloth and really nicely. So I'm liking that really aged look. So just to let you know that you can just rip this up a little bit more. Again, as little or as much as you want to get that really antique-y look. I'm going to go ahead with Debbie's DIY. I'm using a liquid patina because I want to give it that aged antique look to it. And it's going to be a very dark brown. We're going to get that on here. It's like a glaze. So we're just going to get that all over here. And as you can see, I really want to concentrate on the spots that I didn't get the black paint on, and then just go lightly over the black. Don't forget the edges, because we want the edges to look grungy as well. This will be carried onto the pages, so I'm not too worried about how careful I am, because we need to antique those pages as well. So you can see how this is kind of giving that nice look. Again, I'm not looking for even coverage because it's got to look old. And we'll just give this a wipe. Okay, I'm going to continue on to this other side with the grunging, and then we'll be back for the next step. So for the next step, what we're going to do on the back side is I'm going to put some black wax. I have some Annie Sloan wax black. It's a very soft wax, which I like to work with, but any black wax will do that you would have. If you don't have black, if you want to find a very, very dark antique wax, then that would work as well. But just to give it that really vintage effect, and we're going to highlight some of the imperfections, but I'm going to use black for this one, and we'll get that laid down. Again, I'm not looking for perfection on here. I just want a little bit of that vintage look that we are going for. Okay, we're going to let the antique wax dry before we flip the book over and go on to the next stage. Okay, we're on to the other side, and so for the next stage, what I want to do is start using a pencil and curl up some of the corners. The book is a little damp, so it helps get those, do up some rolling ups, getting some of those pages all curled up. So I like to do this to get to the next step, because then what we can do is when we come in to apply the glue to seal all these pages together, we can kind of get in here and also do some distressing and antiquing in between some of these pages. So we don't need to go just however many that you want. It's up to you. But if you just get them curled so that they can curl. And then once this is dry, then you can come back. So I like to wet it, get the pages all wet, come in and start to curl, and then leave it to dry. And then while it's wet, give it some little bit more distressing so that you can get some torn up pages. Again, however many you want to use, it's up to you. Again, I'm using some paper towel in between, fold up so that I can get these. These pages are going to get glued down, so don't worry about any height, but we're just going to create that in here, and then we're going to push these pages so that we can kind of get the middle of it. So as you can see, curling up the pages 2 or 3 at a time if you want. You can do 1 at a time. It's up to you. It's your preference and how distressed you would like the pages to be. I think that's as much as I'm going to do. We can always come back and do a little bit more distressing on the pages after we get it glued and stained. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to glue some pages down. So I'm going to Mod Podge these edges because I want these to stay, and then we're going to come back and then we will work on putting the spells on the top pages, and then we'll go from there. So I'm using the matte finish on the Mod Podge, going in with the brush. The Mod Podge will help seal up all these pages together. It's like a glue. So if you don't have Mod Podge, just use some white glue, and then you can glue so that we can glue up all these pages together. So I will continue to glue up all these pages, then we'll come back to the next step. Okay, while we wait for the glue to dry on these pages, we're going to go ahead and get the potion spells ready and glue those on. So I'm just going to wet along the edges so I can get, I don't want a straight cut, I just want to delicately, carefully tear the paper so that it gives you that nice rough edge that we've got here. So just with a little bit of water, let it soak in a little bit, and then you can start to tear away at the pages. Then with a little bit of Mod Podge, we are going to put this, glue this on. Give a generous coat of Mod Podge on here. And on the back of this one, so we get good adhesion. Like I say, this is a craft that does not need to be perfect. And you want it to cover the writing on these pages. And don't worry that you see two different colors, because when we come back in, we're going to antique them and then blend them all together. Now, one trick I can give you with Mod Podge that I have found, that the more generous you are with the Mod Podge, the less wrinkles you have. And if you do have enough and you do get some wrinkles, if you put a little bit of heat on there, you should be able to iron out the wrinkles with the hair dryer. Or I wouldn't recommend a heat gun, but just a little bit of heat, pressing it down. Now in this case, I'm going to welcome any wrinkles that do come. So we just want to make sure we get this all adhered down. Now I'm just going to go in between these curled pages because I want to have these glued down a little bit as part of the book display. Just go in between just to give a little bit of glue. You don't need to go all the way in. And after we're done this step, we're going to leave this to dry. Then we'll come back with the antiquing. All right, we will set this to dry, then we'll be right back. Okay, so the next step we're going to do is we're going to start doing the antiquing. Again, I am going to be using Debbie's DIY, the liquid patina, and I'm going to start coming in with the brush in between the pages. This has had time to dry, so it's going to give a variation of all different kinds of colors and the antiquing. So you just want to get in here, get in between some of the pages. Again, it does not have to be perfect, because we will come in with another step after this, but we just want to get this color in. And get that distressed look in here. I'm already liking what's happening. Again, this is a process that does not need to be perfect. We're just making things that's going to start aging. So a little or as much as you want. If you find that your page is starting to tack up when you start putting the patina on, just a little bit of water will help move it and open it up a little bit more. Gives you that opportunity to kind of move it around a little bit and get it to where you want it to be. Okay, I'm just going to come and touch up the edges just a little bit, just to get a little bit more grunge in here. We do need to let this dry in order for us to get to the next step. So we'll be right back. Okay, so the next step we're going to take is I'm using the Tim Holtz Distress ink. This one is Walnut Stain. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in on the edges here just to give a little bit more distressing. And that little darkness you can see is going to add just a little bit more patina that we would like on this piece. So I'm just going to over on some of the highlights, on the pages, on the corners. Pretty much I'm just sticking to a lot of the edges just to emphasize a little bit more of the aging technique that we want to get out of this. And as you can see, it just kind of pops this up a little bit more. Again, it does not have to be perfect because I like how it's coming in on the edges here. Again, we're going to get the edges of the book itself so that that's got a little bit more distressing. I'm going to run it down the edges, and then again we'll just do a little bit here on the pages. Okay, we're going to let that dry, and then we'll come in and start doing the finishing details. Okay, so we're going to get on to the next step. That is, we're going to position the skeleton hands around the book. So it looks like the skeleton hands are holding the book. I'm going to insert them right actually in the very last page so that they can be glued into place. It's got to look like they are holding the book open. These are skeletons. I got them from Michael's in the pick section. They are a bit bendable, so you can manipulate them into place before you glue them. If you want to antique these a little bit more, you can. They do come a little bit distressed already, but it's up to you. I think I got them where I want them. You can put them up here. You can also, if you want to, you can put them here or you can put them down here. It's up to you. It's whatever your preference is. You can have them anywhere that you want them, just so that they look like they're holding the book. I'm going to put mine up a little bit because that's where I want to have mine. And I think I'm going to get them right where I want. Here. Here, this one, I want to bend this one a little bit more. So I get that good curve around here. Okay, I'm ready to get these glued into position. Perfect. Just gonna glue this guy because he's come a little bit loose. Let's get him glued in before I glue the rest of them in. There we go. And the last little thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of webbing, some cobwebs, because you can't have a nice haunted book or an old antique book without a little bit of cobwebs. So I've taken some cobwebs, whether you've got it from dollar store or Michael's. I'm just going to take a little bit of the cobwebs, just stretch it out a little bit, because we can cover the book with this as well. So just wherever you want to get it to grab some of these spaces, just very lightly. I don't want it to cover up the spells too much, but it just got to give you that nice aged look. I don't use very much because it does stretch. And I do like getting it down on the edges, getting it around the flowers, just stretch it out, get it down and over. Let's have some fun. All right, there we go. And just to give a little bit of an added little something something, we're going to add some little black spiders. So from the dollar store, you can buy a little pack of spiders. These come little black ones. So we can put a couple on here, just for a little extra embellishment on here, however many you like. We will get these, glue these into place as well so that they can stay. There, this could stay. So here's our final book. I have a little bit of a book stand, so it's a stand that I can use to display, so you kind of could see what the finished look is going to be, and hopefully this will inspire you to come and do your own Halloween DIY spell book. Happy Halloween! Like and share, subscribe if you like this tutorial. If you'd like to see more, let me know, and I appreciate any comments that you have on this particular tutorial. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.